when I wanted to learn how to program when I was 13 or 14 years old, being able to type fast is very, very important because I ended up creating blogs. The first websites I built were really essentially blogs, and I was the only writer. So I had to write everything on their pen names. So typing speed, sometimes I joke around, but that keyboard that my mom brought me indirectly, made me a millionaire and allowed me to create a lot of opportunity for myself.
We're all about turning a crappy situation into something positive.
$250,000 of credit card debt.
I still remember the day when no one turned up.
Throw it in the garbage and start from scratch.
I could give myself a chance, so I started something.
I mean, I think that counts as from poop to gold.
Our sponsor for this episode is our 14-day video script challenge.
Yes, we are sponsoring our own show.
Yes, we are. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to From Poop to Gold. I'm Daniel Harmon, Chief Creative Officer of Harmon Brothers, and your host. Today, my guest is Josh Snow. Josh, welcome on From Poop to Gold.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, super excited to have you on. So Josh is a serial entrepreneur. He basically learned to code himself at the public library as a teenager. Also started his first advertising company called Forsold as a teenager. And you are now founder of Snow, which is an oral care company, as well as you are on the board of the Phoenix Coding Academy and advise them there, as well as you have the Fleischer Scholars Program, which you're a trustee of. So basically, you have lots of time to play Fortnite, is what's going on, right?
That's all I do. That's all I do. Too much free time.
That's right. Cool. Well, again, super excited to have you on, and just want to dive a little bit into your own story. If you could kind of give us a little bit more of a background. How did you end up where you are today, and specifically, like, where did you find the motivation to go and like teach yourself coding in a public library?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. So growing up, I always wanted to be somebody. I wanted to be a doctor growing up. I wanted to be someone who, was kind of looked at as someone who helped people. I wanted to help people, right? I mean, that's just what it comes down to. And I knew that I wanted to make a good enough living that, I could help my family out, and I could, I wanted to go to school for a long period of time. I was pretty good at school after a while. In the very beginning, I was a little bit of a wild child, but after a while, I became a really good student. And so I had to figure I would, be a heart surgeon or something along those lines. And so I didn't really think I was going to ever be an entrepreneur. I didn't really know what an entrepreneur was, but I was always interested in computers. And so growing up, I used to watch my mom on the kitchen table, just typing away. And she's so fast at typing. And I remember as a kid, I used to watch that. It seemed magical just how fast she would type. And I always wanted to type like that. And so one day she brought home just a keyboard by itself and kind of an extra keyboard, and then just left it on the kitchen counter. And then I would sit in front of the TV. And when I was watching, cartoons or whatever I was watching on TV, I was essentially transcribing on the keyboard, but I didn't know what I was doing. I wanted to be like my mom. And, I had a keyboard sitting on my lap, and I was just typing. And so that's when I was really young. I don't remember the exact age. I might've been, I don't know, 7 or 8, like really young, like really, really young, sitting there just, typing away. Because I remember when I was in school, we took a typing test in class, and the teacher walked over to me, was watching over my shoulders, and I didn't know any better. I was just doing what I would do at home. I'm like, oh, cool, we're doing a typing test. I love typing. And then she was like, that's really fast. And so then she went and got an orange cover and put it over the keyboard. And she's like, okay, try it now. And because I was so used to watching TV and just typing everything, I didn't need to look. So then, a lot of the kids in the class, it was their first time really like typing on a keyboard. And for me, I was typing, at like 50 words per minute. So she was like, this is nuts. So the reason I bring that up is because when I wanted to learn how to program, when I was 13 or 14 years old, being able to type fast is very, very important because I ended up creating blogs. The first websites I built were really essentially blogs, and I was the only writer. So I had to write everything on their pen names. So typing speed, sometimes I joke around, but that keyboard that my mom brought me indirectly, made me a millionaire and allowed me to create a lot of opportunity for myself. And so I was creating those blogs, writing all the blog posts, programming the site, adding different things. So that typing speed, eventually I got up to over 100 words per minute. It allowed me to push out articles very quickly across the different blogs, which eventually I learned how to do searches and optimization, a lot of different marketing techniques online. And then once I discovered that I could make money doing it, because I was like, I like this. It seems like I'm pretty good at it. And then the younger you are, the more naive you are, which is great because you're kind of like, you don't think of those roadblocks in front of you. Like,
you don't know any better than just say, hey, I want to do that. And
right.
Who cares about those obstacles in between? It's just like, let's just go figure that out, right?
100%. That's kind of where I started. I didn't, it wasn't planned. It was just like, I was good at typing. I was kind of fascinated by computers, and I wasn't really around a lot of computers growing up as a child. So really when I would go to school, I was really fascinated by Mac computers. I remember seeing the first Apple computers growing up, and I was really fascinated by the user interface. And then in 2007, I believe it was, I watched Steve Jobs' first keynote introducing the iPhone, and I was mesmerized. I remember watching it, and I rewatched it a second time just by myself. And all I thought to myself was, I want that phone, and I'm going to get that phone. And I think I was maybe, I don't know, 13 years old or 14 years old at the time. And I was obsessed with that phone. And I remember telling my dad, I was like, I will literally sell whatever I have, shoes, like anything that I have, so that I can get that phone. And he was like, okay, if you want it, well, you got to come up with the money. He's like, I can help you out a little bit, but you're gonna have to come up with the money. And so, but really what I was mesmerized by was Steve Jobs' passion and his ability to communicate. And eventually I realized that that's what I was interested in, and the ability to tell a story, in person and over video and et cetera, which you guys have, very, very much about. But that if I look back, those were kind of key moments when I first realized I could make websites for people and charge for that, which means I could make money doing it. Then I found out about Google AdSense. Then I watched Steve Jobs on stage, and I say, one day I would love to be able to get in front of people and tell a story like that. And so now when I'm on stage all over the world, I kind of channel that inner Steve Jobs from that very first presentation. And so it's a real honor to be able to, mimic that as best as I can, and kind of in my own way, but be able to tell a story on stage is one of my favorite things to do.
Very cool, and you have a great presence up there, having watched one of your stage presentations. And Josh, have you ever read the book The Alter Ego Effect?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, essentially that's what you're doing with your Steve Jobs, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't let other people know what your alter ego is.
Right.
But anyway, we had Todd Herman on the show, and the author of The Alter Ego Effect, and
wow.
just thought that was interesting that you brought that to mind. But well, that's really cool. So what about this oral care company, Snow? How did you end up in that?
Yeah. So, we have Snow is so we have a few brands right now. One thing that maybe a lot of people don't know is that we have a few different brands right now. Two leading brands. One's called David, and the other's called Snow. And David is a personal finance company that is a little bit more behind the scenes, because it's more of a servicing type of company, and we help Americans save money on whether it be their mortgage, car insurance, etc. And we have about 100,000 calls a month that come into our call centers with people looking for help. We have a free helpline, and that's And there's a business there. We make money when we help people save. If we don't make money. And it's a substantial business. And I have an amazing co-founder in that business, Anthony Sarandria. But Snow, Snow came about because they both came about around the same time. I was looking for something, not just something to do. I had, I had exited a company, and I had, at 21 years old, 22 years old, a substantial amount of cash relative to my age to kind of figure out what I wanted to do next. I was out of school. I had graduated from Arizona State University, and I went from working 16 hours a day to essentially doing nothing. So, and that was driving me nuts. And so I was really in search of something that I could do that was big, something that could keep me busy. And I had jaw surgery around that time. So I had upper jaw surgery to fix some of the alignment. I had some bad jaw pain, and I had braces a few times. And so I became friends with my dentists and oral surgeons, etc. And we would start to hang out. And one day I asked, like, hey guys, where's the market at, or where's the business for a guy like me? I'm not a dentist. I'm not a doctor. And they said, well, the only thing you could really do is probably teeth whitening. You have strips on one side, you have the in-office treatments on the other side, and not really anyone kind of owning that middle section. And so I was like, okay, if I could take the technology and the efficacy of an in-office treatment with the convenience of strips, we could be onto something. So I asked if they would help me kind of just review the formula as I came up with it. I obsessed over the research. And once we found a formula that, could give amazing results without painful sensitivity, really focus on the safer sensitivity, then we knew we were on something. And I say it was really just, a few of us in the beginning kind of just throwing ideas back and forth. But, the first 6 months we hit $1 million. And that's when I said, wow, there might be something here. And so I kind of put a bunch of fishing lines out around that same time to see which one would kind of take off. And one of my mentors, who's my partner in the Fleischer Scholars Foundation, Mort Fleischer, always says, follow the money. And so I put those fishing lines out. One started to ring a lot, another started to ring a lot, and I said, okay, I've got to go all in. And then I became really obsessed and infatuated initially, and then obsessed with the oral care market, and personal care as a whole, but oral care particularly. And I started to say, what if we reimagined toothpaste? What if we reimagined floss? What if we reimagined the toothbrush? What if we reimagined the teeth whitening market? And so all of a sudden I realized a gap where we could really, really take off. And, today we now have more website traffic than Crest and Colgate. And so it's evident that we're on to something. And we've had the amazing opportunity to work with very large celebrities. And now we're working with large retailers and rolling out for holiday season. And in about 4 weeks from now, I will be making my debut on the Home Shopping Network as an on-air personality selling Snow. So it's been really exciting. And one thing that's important to us is that 18 million American children go without dental care access every single year. And one thing we do in the background, we don't lead within our marketing. And that was very important to us as well as we chose to do this, is every single product we sell, we help one of the children who don't have dental care access. And, that could be something as like a kit of toothbrush, toothpaste, mouthwash, etc., all the way up to dentist volunteer to fix cavities, etc., on the weekend at these different clinics. And so that's something that's important to us, because it's like, as we scale, how are we doing good while doing well and growing? And that was another thing too, because I was like, I can start any company. I want to do something where one, it's got virtually infinite scale. Two, it's truly something disruptive. Three, the products have to work. And then ideally, through the products and through the growth, we're able to make some sort of impact. And we're impacting people by, we're in the business of confidence. We make people feel really good about themselves. We also, make them excited about brushing their teeth, about whitening their teeth, which means they're going to take care of their teeth even better. We have our whole line of toothpaste launching shortly with exciting flavors, so people are excited to brush their teeth. And then, the background, helping out the children who don't have dental access. So that, for me, kind of culminated into a perfect smoothie of a company where I felt like I could, I said, I think I could run Snow for 50 years. And I think I could run David for 50 years. We help Americans save money on all sorts of things. And we help the world feel better about their smile. And so I was like, okay, these are pretty big challenges. I think I could take these on.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's very much aligned with kind of where we like to go as a company. Our whole thing is we want to share better stories. And for us, that has a lot of different meaning. It needs to be sharing stories in better ways than we have in the past, that we're doing things that make the world a better place, that we're sharing stories in a better way than what their clients have been able to share their story in the past. It has a lot of different meanings for us, but it's very clear that the impact of what you're doing on the world is very important to you. Like you said, you came into money very early on, almost unexpectedly, it sounds like, and you could be on a beach somewhere. But like you said, that's not nearly as fulfilling as going out and helping lift other people along with you. And so I think that's really cool. And I think so much of what we see now is entrepreneurs getting a bad rap, or business owners or corporations for that matter, that capitalism is poo-pooed on all the time.
Right.
And what people don't realize is I think entrepreneurs are doing more to impact the world for good. I mean, certainly more than politicians are doing to help us out, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So
For sure.
anyway, it's really heartening to hear this kind of story from you of not let's just make a great product that's going to be disruptive in the market and stuff, but how are we going to help all these kids that don't have access to good dental health care? And I love that about what you're doing. Josh, the theme of this podcast is From Poop to Gold. So
Yeah.
we always like to find out when you've had a really crappy situation in your life that you were able to turn into something positive. What comes to mind for you when I mention that? I mean, I'm sure you've got a bunch, but what's one that really sticks out?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it before on stage, but it's very important because I think that one very important area of entrepreneurship and of running companies and scaling companies and being involved in startup life, mental health, I think is thrown under the rug sometimes. And I think that, at least for myself, speaking for myself, it can be embarrassing sometimes to kind of raise your hand and say, hey, I'm kind of overwhelmed, or, especially in America, you say, how are you doing? Busy. Oh, busy's good. And so,
maybe it's good.
Right. Well, that's what they say, right? It's like, it's applauded to be extremely busy and, and overworked and all of this. And, oh, I picked up a second job. Nice. That's awesome. And so I think that, which, by the way, I think makes us the best country in the world, because we have such a strong work ethic and wanting to contribute and want to do more. And, that American dream, I think is one of the best stories ever told. And it works so well. It draws people from all over the world wanting to join our beautiful country. And I would say that when I was 21, 22 years old, again, I had been working for 10 years at this time. So, and I was always a very, very mature, a very old soul. And so I'm at 21, 22 years old. I had some material possessions that I always wanted, cars, things like that. And I wasn't really happy. And I just was so confused on why I was not happy. It was like I had, I was kind of like this wonder boy, it's like, here's a wonder boy. And, I graduated the honors college at Arizona State University in just under 2 years. So I just blew through there, straight A's, and I was running a multi-million-dollar company. And it's like, why would I not be happy? And what I realized is that there's a qualitative factor sometimes to what you're working on. And that qualitative factor will wear on you a lot more quickly than the quantitative factor will. So if you're not waking up, and every day you're not going to wake up excited like the same way. There are some days where, you're going to wake up, even with snow or David, there are certain things where I'm like, oh, we have to meet with accountants today, or we have to meet with lawyers today, or we have to do this. It's like, oh, it's going to be a drag. But when you wake up for multiple days or multiple weeks and you don't have that energy, it's very important for you to be real with yourself. At least, and this is me speaking to myself, is to be like, hey, something, you can change something, you don't have to be stuck anywhere. And I think that for me, I realized that I have to be doing something. Like I have to have a lot of things going on, right? It's like helping out the Phoenix Coding Academy, which is a free public it's a public high school where we have 3D printers, robotics, all teaching programming to underserved communities, and it's a full high school. So you go there from freshman to senior year, and you graduate. You never leave that school during that period. So impact, right? So for me, when you realize that you have to make 100 billion like Bill Gates, and you still can't solve every problem, that's one thing that kind of deep down inside keeps pushing me, is that it's like, even if I had $1 trillion, I still could not solve every problem. And that's not the thing. But I want to contribute, not necessarily in money. I think a lot of times time and energy and thinking is much more valuable to problem solving than simply throwing money at something.
Yeah.
And so, and I've seen, politics is a great example of that. Throwing money at things doesn't solve anything. So anyway, long story short, I think that when I was feeling a bit burnt out, I think I had like a delayed burnout, and I didn't know what it was, because I'd never gone through it before. And I was kind of embarrassed to say anything, because here I am, I'm a college graduate, running a multi-million-dollar company, driving nice cars, and I felt like I felt like I didn't have room to complain, and that people wouldn't listen to me, because if I started complaining, like, what do you have to complain about? Like, oh, that's hard. Like, driving your Ferrari around is tough, and it's like no. And so inside I felt a little bit kind of lonely in that aspect. But once I started to open up and realize, like, hey, I've got to do something big. I've got to have a big mission so that I can wake up every morning. And the best result of that is that obviously I was able to, become a part of our, Found Snow and David. And now we have this mission that calls amazing people together. And so now I've got an extraordinary team on both companies that, I could only dream of. And I think because that mission is out there, and I think that people can sense that the founder or the visionary is doing this authentically, and not for personal enrichment. I'm not doing this to go buy another Lamborghini or anything. Like I'm trying to prove a point. And I think that attracts incredible people.
Yeah. Awesome. That's a great story. So where you differ from so many of the stories that we've heard is that your poop moment is actually in a moment of riches, right? When you've kind of got everything going for you, but still not having that happiness there, and then
Right.
being able to find something that gives you purpose that's amazing. Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time here today, Josh, and covering that stuff in your story. It's really inspiring what you're doing. Really excited for all your success. If people want to look up something you're doing, what's the main thing you'd point them to right now?
Personally, Instagram is probably where I'm most active. Josh Snow. So Instagram.com/Josh Snow. And then company-wise, trysnow.com. And then anything David related is usedavid.com.
Okay. Try Snow, so TRY snow.com.
Perfect.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. And make sure to subscribe for those of you that haven't, to follow this podcast. And thank you for your time again. And thank you again, Josh, for joining us. And we'll see you on the next one.
As entrepreneurs and small businesses, we all kind of reach that point where we know we've created something awesome and we want to share it with the world, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that very next step that can oftentimes be really intimidating or really scary, or you just don't know where to go next, right? And the beautiful thing about this 14-day script challenge is you get your hand held from, okay, you have this cool product, now let's go research and find the exact way to present it and message it to the world in a way that resonates and gets people excited and they're ready to swipe their credit card and purchase. And in the 14-day script challenge, you get the opportunity to go through that step by step with our writers who have done it dozens and dozens of times.
Yeah, you actually watch us go through each of the steps ourselves and create it with a real client, a real product, and it's a real campaign that's out there that's been very successful.
That's right. And the feedback that we've had on this thing has just been phenomenal. I mean, we get comment after comment and emails flowing in from people all over the world who have just raved about the impact that this has had on their business.
People tell us over and over again, it is just a huge value punch for the investment for this 14-day script challenge, and really gave them the tool set they needed to walk through it and make it happen.
And we've had dozens of students who have successfully taken the challenge, written their script, launched their ad campaigns, and driven success for their business. It's pretty amazing.
For more information, go to hbros.co/script. That's hbros.co/script.